Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a very exciting coffee conversation here on the Wealth Cafe. And I am so excited for this conversation. I am joined by the incredible Alexa Moore. And to tell you a little bit more about her, you may know her from social media as Lil Miss Awkward. I'm probably also, not giving that the full justice, but let's dive into a little bit more about Alexa. She is an award-winning travel creator and occasional freelance travel writer, and she has worked and been featured in publications like Matador Network, Lonely Planet. She was born and raised in Washington, D.C., the metro area, and she proudly still calls it home. She is a content creator and solely focuses on her solo travel and cultural exploration, her elevated experience, but her ultimate goal is also to encourage people to wiggle, love it, outside of their comfort zones and explore the world. Alexa, I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And transparency, Alexa and I actually met while we were on a trip in Vietnam, and I was so impressed that you were solo traveling. So I will be the first person to say that you are, everyone always wants to know, they're like, are people like, the content you see online, are they like that in person? And I'll be the first person to say that yes, you are exactly as fabulous in person as you are online.
Thank you, girl. That's a high compliment, actually.
I love it. Not as amazing as the award winning. So I want to unpack, like, let's start first with your journey into content creation, traveling. And there's so much I want to get into today because you have set the tone, I think, for so many, especially women traveling. So how did you get into traveling alone as a woman?
Yeah, for sure. It was I don't want to say by force, but I had an opportunity after college to travel to Namibia for an internship. That's such a crazy sentence, but I I was really into dance as a kid and musical theater, and so there was an opportunity to do this like volunteer slash internship in Namibia, and this would be the first time I was truly traveling alone. I had done study abroad and went to India, but kind of being so far from home and then also making the journey by myself. So I remember talking to my parents and they were like, "Oh, if you're going all the way to Namibia, you might as well just make some stops because it'll be cheaper airfare if you do that."
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Okay, I guess." And so I went to Iceland, and then I went to Namibia, and then I went to South Africa, and then I also went to Ireland. But in some of these places I had family, so I kind of felt more comfortable to be able to kind of explore on my own. But that was really my first solo trip. And I think I was 22 at the time, I was a baby. And I just realized, like, wow, I am actually independent and smart and confident, and I can navigate this world by myself, and I don't need other people to be there. And that's how I dipped my toe in. And then eventually, after a few years, I got the opportunity to do another solo trip. And that's when I really fell in love. I think that was Guatemala. And I was like, wow, I don't need anyone else ever again to come with me on a trip. Right. Like I can be happy and content just by myself. So, yeah.
So empowering because I think so many of us, we either like don't book the trip because it's okay, then I have to coordinate schedules with everybody and I have to find who can go. And then you're also sitting there, and I know I felt this, like you have to make sure everybody on the trip likes everything. And when you're
Yes,
solo, you're like, I want to go up and get a coffee, and then I want to take a nap, and then I want to explore this. Like you get that freedom.
exactly. There's so much freedom. I realized that like you were saying, with when you're traveling with other people, I don't truly get to be myself because I'm a people pleaser. I like to make sure people are happy, like you just said. And I realized I was doing so much for other people. And with solo trips, I can be so selfish.
Mm.
I wouldn't consider myself a very selfish person, but on my solo trips, I do everything I want to. So it's very empowering to be able to do so.
So how did this then translate? You're on these solo trips. How did this then come to be Little Miss Awkward?
Yeah, I think I just kept traveling and kept traveling and kept traveling and realizing that I really enjoy sharing stories. So when I was in India studying abroad, I created a blog. It was mostly dedicated to just my fear of the monkeys in India and my experience.
I love it.
It was like my first blog post about how I almost got attacked by a family of monkeys in India, and
Whole
I
family.
just like sharing. Right? It was just that. Sorry.
I was like, wow, the whole family came for you. That is,
Yeah,
yeah.
mama and her babies. It was a little scary, but that inspired me to share because I didn't see a lot of people who looked like me who had gone to India. And so every trip from then, I was sharing either on my Instagram or on my blog about it. And I just kept going. And I think during the pandemic, where we could not travel, it became even more of an outlet for me because I was, I felt so stuck at home. And so I could just look through my past content and maybe inspire people, give people hope, like, we're going to get through this and we're going to be able to explore the world again and look at all the beautiful places that you can go to once the world is safe and opens up again. So that's kind of how I fell into it. I don't think I originally intended to become this, but I remember my aunt who actually passed away a few years ago. She was my biggest champion. I mean, she used to send me like people's blogs and Instagrams like you could do this. And I used to be like, no, Aunt Kimberly, I can't do this. But it's so crazy to think that I then did it. And yeah, and now 4 or 5 years later, I'm full time. I've been full time for the past 3 years, uh, doing travel content, which is amazing.
I think you have to go and like find those monkeys in India now and say, I need to, I actually need to apologize for the original blog post. Thank you for catapulting this chapter of my life.
Right? Those like Marvel origin stories? Like that would, that would be mine.
Or you can go on and do that, like adopt a, monkey family somewhere. Like,
Oh, yeah. Like a full circle thing. I'm not gonna hold you. I'm still afraid of monkeys. They're very menacing. And I think my issue is I smile a lot, like constantly, probably way too much. And monkeys see showing teeth as a sign of aggression.
no way.
Yes. So when you're walking, like you're not, but I smile. Oh my gosh. So I'm like, they're like there, and I'm trying not to smile or laugh. I don't want them to see me as a threat.
And then you're nervous because you
Yes.
want to smile. And then, oh, yeah, that's a really,
And then it's just like this the entire time. So
yeah, that's a whole circle. So, it's interesting too, like with all of your travel content, you do a really great job in showing, and you and I have talked about this, like the so much of like the culture and the history. And I love that you put such an emphasis on that in the places that you visit. And you recently put up a post that you were in Senegal and you shared so much about what you were doing to learn about the culture, learn about the history. Why is that so important to you?
yeah, I think um there's this idea. Well, travel is transformative. Well, I think it should be transformative. And I think it's important to learn. I think what travel taught me is about humanity.
Mm.
I think I learned how different we may seem, but really how alike we are at the same time. And I learned a lot about empathy traveling. And I understand that it's not everyone's purpose to go and be changed by travel, like the eat, pray, love, or the, you know,
Yeah.
adopt a whole new lifestyle thing. But I think it is important to be open to letting the world kind of leave its imprint on us a bit. And so I like sharing about culture and history. Because of that, I think we're so much more connected than people even realize. And especially for me, traveling to places across the Black diaspora, I learned so much. Like I'd be in Brazil and I'd learn about traditions that my family does, and even though Brazil and the US are, very different, like there's so many similarities and connections. Even in places like Vietnam, seeing how like the rice farming was happening and how that happens in other, I find it fascinating. And I think those are the important stories to share, how we are so much more connected and alike than we think we are. And especially I feel so much division currently. I feel like those are the important things to remember. And I think that's something that people should try to seek difference of opinion and difference of culture and see how that can change you. I think it makes you into a more empathetic and a more well-rounded human.
I think that's beautiful. And I love, when I travel, to me, the history part is one of my favorite parts of going to
Yeah.
travel and like seeing different cultures. I love, this is so strange. I love to go into food stores in other countries and see like what do we eat? Like just seeing people. I love to people watch clearly and just see like everyone lives because you're right.
Yeah.
It's amazing how we feel so far apart, but we can all still be connected and how everything still comes together. So that's why I asked that question because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people don't appreciate the history. And I think in like a modern age, it's so easy to like, yeah, whatever, okay, move on. But it's, and like you said, like the culture that you were seeing and the traditions you were seeing in Brazil, to think in a time before computers and email and all of that existed, like all those traditions made it all the way to your family.
Yeah.
And how many, like, that's beautiful.
Yeah. It's very wild how, I don't know, just connected things are. But I am curious, what has been the most interesting food product you've seen in a grocery store abroad?
Oh, that's a good question. There have been like it's usually the meat section is a little scary. I will say the one that struck me the most, and this isn't that strange, is I was in London. Everything is in saran wrap. Everything. I was like, why did we saran wrap every single
Oh
individual
my gosh. Like
vegetable
fruit?
and fruit, all of it? Like the orange would be saran wrapped in whatever store I went into. And I was like, it's in its own
It's an appeal.
field.
That's real. Yeah, there's a lot of plastic usage. That makes, did you see, I feel like in the UK, I'm always fascinated about how robust their cold prepared food sections are. Like
Interesting.
sandwiches and like
Yes. Yep.
tikka masala, and like they have a whole culture around like these very easy grab and go kind of meals that I feel like we just don't have.
And they're like food stores, like we're so used to it here in the US. It's like, well, let me go to Costco and find the biggest thing possible. And
Yeah.
they're like, it struck me too, because in the apartment I was staying in, the fridge was what we would consider like a mini fridge,
Yeah.
like probably a skincare fridge. And I was like, what do people do here? And they're like, we just go to the store every day. And I'm like, but they do like the grab and go, but it's so cool to see that culture piece.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Yeah. What I would give for walkable streets and food I could buy every day.
Right. I'm like, that's not a possibility here, but I understand their
Yes.
joy of it. But
But they will never find the joy of going into like a Publix, getting fried chicken and a pub sub, or I don't know. We have,
Costco hot dog, a rotisserie chicken,
that
like
is true. Though
that's
Costco's are becoming very international.
they are. It's on my I have Costco Monopoly actually, if that makes you feel better. And
That.
it shows all the different locations and it gives you really funny facts about like there's one in Hawaii, there's one at on international it feels a bit but by the flight from where we are,
Yeah.
but and they're like all different countries now that have them and it shares like little fun facts about the different products they have in those countries that are popular.
Oh, cool. I'm very curious if they also have a 199 hot dog combo. Is that the string that connects all Costco's?
I have to Google it after this.
Okay.
I must know. Which, speaking of money, perfect transition of the
Yeah.
hot dog. Let's talk about the cost of travel.
Yeah, for sure.
So, a lot of what I hear from people, they're like, it's expensive. How do you do it? How do you manage it? Because I try to take 1 to 2 big trips a year and then sprinkle smaller things in and out. How do you, or do you see travel as an investment in your life, in your, like, how does that fit into everything as my topic?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say it's a hobby, but it is a hobby for me at this point. I know it's something that brings me joy, and so therefore I make sure that I do it. Now, I try to do, what, this is going to sound crazy, 1 to 2 personal trips a year that are international. That does not mean I travel 1 to 2 times a year, because as if you follow me, I am gone like every month. But I do
Bi-monthly, bi-weekly, all the things.
I do a lot of travel for work, but in terms of personal travel, I think it is worth the investment. If I get to now travel sometimes solo, but sometimes with my husband, and so it's making new memories, and there are places that he has not been to, and so now getting him out the country, like we went to South Africa in January, and that was just so worth it because it was the first time we got to be in the continent of Africa together, and We
That's so
experienced all
cool.
these new things. And even though it was not a new city for me, I saw it with a completely new lens now that I am nearly 30 and have a lot more money than I did when I was backpacking Cape Town. So
Little bit of a different experience. Like I also
exactly.
do, I see it like as my life grows, like you upgrade your experiences and people are like, why would
Exactly.
you go back to a country? I'm like, it's very different when you experience it, when you first went there versus when
Yeah.
you actually can stay in the nicer places and do everything and try different foods.
Oh, for sure. And I I don't particularly have a budget for travel. Um, but I do kind of make a list at the top of each year of places that I would like to add, to my list, or not add to my list. I would like to visit in a year. So I try to pick maybe one to two and think about what kind of money is necessary for me to be able to enjoy a trip of that nature. For example, St. Lucia was on my list for this year, and we scored very, very point savvy tickets. So now I will be going in August, but also thinking about, okay, do I spend the money on the very expensive resort, or do I spend the money on the activities? And so kind of having those conversations too, and realizing like, what will I be happy is with, like, walking away from the trip? Will it be going to all of these activities, or will it be staying at a 5-star resort? Haven't decided yet.
Like, every place is going to be different, right? You might
Yes.
be in St. Lucia. Like I'm going to the Bahamas at the end
Yeah.
of August, and I'm like, we're just staying at the resort. Like that is the big thing we're
Yeah.
doing. You're going to spend more money on that, right? So it's always
Yes.
the balance. And I tell people, I'm like, what's important to you, right? So some people, I don't know how they're these kind of people. They're like, I don't care about food when I travel, and I'm like,
Right.
okay, can't relate. But
Yeah.
to them, like they have no food budget. They're like, we'll go to Burger King, we'll go to this and that and the other place, and they don't really care. So I'm like, okay, so where are you going to? And I always tell people, I'm like, figure out where it's important to you to spend the money versus where everyone else tells you to spend it.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. It's I think Instagram also contributes to this, like social media. And I think people not being transparent about prices and costs make people feel like they need to have these very extravagant vacations. That is not the case. You don't have to do 5-star, you don't have to do ultra luxury, and you don't have to put yourself in debt to do it either. Travel within your means, and I mean, as long as you're going somewhere that you like and with people you like, I think you're going to have a good time. Yeah, I would say don't get too caught up on this idea that it has to be the highest of highs, because some of my best travel experiences have been staying at a $50 a night hotel. But I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was the most amazing trip, right?
I agree. Like some of the best experiences that we have are a lot of times like the cheapest and the ones we don't
Yes.
expect. Like the food tour that you and I did in Vietnam, top three memories from the trip. And what was that? Like not, it was, I can't remember how.
Like $20
That's
maybe.
what I was thinking, like $20 or $30 by the
Yeah.
time like we were done.
Yeah.
Highlight of the trip.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Uh it's really those I think about that food tour a lot, actually. I can't believe I thought I was gonna finish way more stuff. I think by the end we were both like, all right,
Ready to
we can all
unpack.
share.
Yeah. But the worst part was is this tour guide. So what was it? 12 stops that we
Yeah.
did. And he was so impressed that we, as three women, finished as much food as we did, or four of us. And I was like, Americans for you.
Yeah. I'm like, we are American.
I was like, we prepared, we paced ourselves really well.
Yes, I agree. And we were walking, so I'm like, we're burning energy. We're we're able to eat more. And
We
he was,
can
yeah,
heal.
he was actually very impressed. I was like, oh no.
Yeah. But the food was delicious. And
Yeah.
that's like just to prove the point of like to me, that's also where I see the investment is I know a lot of people have this, and I find, especially too, when working with people, like it's the balance.
Yeah.
People are like, I need to spend the money now because I won't be able to later, or I need to save all the money now so I won't run out of it later. I'm like, there's an in between. Like we,
Hmm.
as a society, we go to so many extremes of like, I have to go 5-star, or I have to be like in a back alley and saving every dime I can. And I'm like, there's a
Yeah.
lot in between here, which
Yeah.
is great to see.
And I hear, not to be like a Debbie Downer, but I hear so many stories when I talk to anyone older than the age of maybe 50, they
Mhm.
always ask me what I do. And I tell them I travel for work. And they're like, wow, I wish I would have traveled more when I was younger. And I think there's this idea, and I'm pro savings, I'm pro investing. I think it's really important to set yourself up for success, but also like we have to remember that our needs are not always going to be like this. And health could go being a healthy person and being able to do things like that's not guaranteed in this life either. And there's just so many what ifs. So if there is a desire to travel and explore, I think it is worth the investment. I think it's worth it. Maybe I'm not saying taking out your investment portfolio, but like, saving towards a trip. I think there's so many people that really lock in and they want the successful future, and that's amazing. But when you're 60 and retired or 55 and retired, you're not going to be able to, I mean, you could, right? But there's many people who are not able to move the same, or they have grandkids now, or they, they shift focus to something else and they're not able to. And so if you have the desire to, I say just go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, and I appreciate you saying don't pull it out of your investment
Yeah.
account. But it's also, I tell people, there's the balance back to that is, I love that you said that you sat down at the beginning of the year and mapped out the trips that you wanted to do and like roughly what they would cost. That way you can plan for it. Like that's, I think the thing is, a lot of people forget. I'm like, you can plan for this. And this is why I wanted us to have this conversation today too, is you can plan for it. You can go alone. You can go with a group. Like there's so much out there and there are so many options. And I
Yes.
think it's beautiful that you share that and not just, especially too when we go on social media, there is so much of the look at me, I flew private here and this, that, and the other thing. And it feels unattainable. Whereas what
Mm-hmm.
you're sharing feels both fun and exciting and attainable. Like
Yeah.
you're showing me places that I'm like, I want to go here that I probably didn't know about,
Yeah.
which I think
Yeah.
is I also want to dive in as part of your solo travel. You are married. You're
I
getting ready to go on your honeymoon a little bit.
am.
Um, better late than never. And let's talk a little bit about what it's like to travel while married. If you can share anything about how you kind of balance that financially, mentally, emotionally, because a lot of people see it as like, well, you have to wait for your husband or you have to whatever. And it's like, you can do both.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
love to hear your insights.
Yeah. I feel like I grew up with parents that were really encouraging. I was just talking about this yesterday of them doing things that they really loved and enjoyed, and being not individualistic per se, but like exploring things that they like to do. Right? My mom's really into gardening. My mom also really loves to travel. So I grew up with a mom who, for her 50th birthday, went on like a trip across the country, like a train trip. Yeah.
No way.
Yes. Yeah. But always encourage us to, be independent. And I think when Peter and I met my husband, he knew that I loved to travel. And one of my favorite things about him is that he never asked me to slow down ever, right? Because he knew that this was something that is inherently extremely important, not only to me, but it's my job, right?
Right. It's also your career. So
Yes. So, but he's always been super supportive and encouraging. And so, um, it just kind of started with conversations. Like I want to explore solo more. Two, when you're a married couple, I mean, you're constantly in communication. So also realize setting up how does that look if you're going to be here and I'm going to be traveling abroad, like taking care of the dog, and then also like making sure like the household is still running and whatnot. I mean, we both contribute, so just like continuously having that conversation, and yeah, we're just very supportive of each other's goals. And then financially, I think I just have always kind of had kept like a travel savings for myself and of course for us. And so there's no issue with me using money towards doing the things that I really enjoy doing. So I have my own savings to be able to do that. And yeah, like I said, he's always been really supportive. I think most people should be supportive of their partners doing things that they really enjoy doing. Because if he was like, I want to go start a farm in Arizona, which I don't think he would ever do, right? But it was his passion, I would, try to be as supportive as possible so he can achieve his great dreams. And I think he knows in the long run, like, this is something that I've always wanted to do, which is travel by myself. But I have had quite a few married ladies also DM me because they were nervous about taking a solo trip. And some of the advice that I did give them was, you know, the standard like solo safety advice, but share your location with your partner. I have a sometimes I'll use like a notes app or a Google Doc and just kind of drop my itinerary in there, and so they can see like, okay, this is my hotel reservation. Even easier if I'm going solo on a group trip, like with EF or another travel company, and they can kind of like see the itinerary that I'm going to be doing. And then establishing, this is so niche. I tend to be in a different time zone. So I honestly figure out what's the best time for us to talk, like to call. So if I'm in Japan and he's in DC, we'll know that 5 a.m. in Japan is probably my time where I'm getting up and calling him, and then we can, make sure we're in continuous communication.
I think that's so helpful to hear. And yes, I think a lot of people, like, we like to sugarcoat things and be like, oh my gosh, no, you just go and it's fine. It's like,
Yeah.
there are, even from a safety standpoint, like, I know you're not sharing your location as a stalker. And like, he has to know where I am. It's from
Yeah.
the standpoint of safety. And also too, it is kind of fun to see, I'm sure, for him to be like, oh my gosh, like, using Japan, like, she's at the cherry blossoms or she's at this, like,
Yeah.
also has to be kind of cool to see, like,
Yeah.
my wife's here, my wife's there, like,
Yeah. Like
and
sending
some,
pictures. It seems like it's a very because it's solo, it's like a very independent experience, but it's not, because I'm still able to share with him like what I'm doing. And we send pictures of like what I do during the day, usually with no caption, just like 10 photos of what I'm doing. And he's always super excited when I get back, and then I'm able to share what I did. So yeah, I really I would love to encourage people to travel, even if it's not solo. I think even just traveling with girlfriends or traveling, like I said, in a group trip setting where you're not always by yourself, but you have moments where you can be solo and be with a group. I think it's really cool to be able to travel in that way. Yeah.
and I think too, a lot of times travel, it has to be like this international big thing. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's cool just to go up to, I mean, for us, it's, a little bit of a hike to go to Boston or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it might be. Like, even that, doing that solo as a first step, I feel like is a really cool way to experience something new. And I know for me, when I first had to travel for business, having dinner, the first time you have dinner by yourself, whoo, man, is it tough to not like just sit there on your phone, but to like
Yeah.
sit around and take that in. That to me too is where I see the investment is in my own like personal growth. And I think it's so worth it to like have that encouragement to go take the trip and to go do it solo and to not either wait around for other people, or the amount of like personal growth you have on a lot of these things, and to have
Yeah.
moments even if you're on a group trip. Like, I love to go away and have moments to like journal or kind of reflect on the day and just kind of wind down, because it is such a beautiful thing that you're able to give yourself.
Yes, I agree. I feel like it grows your confidence. You realize how able and capable you are
Yeah.
to navigate the world when you're doing it by yourself. I don't know. I'm like, wow, I figured that out. Like, oh my gosh, I got through this airport by myself. Like, and then each solo trip, you're like, I'm a whiz. Like, I am a anxious human being, like very anxious. And I realize when I'm on my solo trips, like, not that I can't be anxious, because I still am, but I just am able to problem solve and just move so differently. And then I come back home and then I feel more confident in myself. And yeah, it's just, I think it's a worthy personal investment. I also wanted to say that I tell people who are interested in solo travel, like, there's like many steps you can do, like you were saying, before you go. I always say the first one is do something in your own city by yourself. With,
Ooh.
that's like, go to the movies, go to dinner, even at dinner. I went to dinner in Senegal the other night. I have these big blocky headphones that I always have on. I had my headphones on. I was watching Shrek, um, just at the table laughing to myself, and you realize no one really cares that much that you're there eating dinner by yourself. It is totally fine. But like do something by yourself. And then step two is take a little weekend staycation, either in your own place or maybe like a town over the next state over, and see what that's like. And then step three is not even go on a solo trip. If you're going on a trip already, like family reunion or a batch trip or a wedding, just stay maybe an extra day or two behind by yourself and see what it's like. Or if you're a little anxious, go early. So by the time your solo trip is done, you'll now be surrounded by friends and family. And then solo trip, full solo trip by yourself and see what it's like. And you might not like it, and that is totally okay. There are people who told me they've done solo trips and they're like, it's just not my thing, and that is fine. But there are so many people who come back to me and they're like, it was the best experience of my life. So
And at least you have to try it to find out and say, okay,
exactly.
it wasn't for me, it was for me. I want to do more of this. Or you find out who you like to travel with or don't like to travel with. And I think it's a beautiful time of self-discovery.
Yes, yes. What's my favorite office quote is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. Have you seen that
Yes.
before?
Like right. Yeah. It's but it's true, right? Like if you don't try it, if you don't set aside the money, if you don't set aside the time, I always talk about like this rocking chair moment, right? We're all gonna be in our whatever age we get to. And if you are sitting in a rocking chair at the end of your life, like flashing back to everything that's happened, like what are the things that you want to see? And what is it that you're like, I will feel content as long as I've done these things. And like you need to decide like what those things are. And for some people that's travel, for some people that's family, for some people it's all of these things. And I think the biggest thing is understanding who you are, what's important, and going all in on those things. And I love
Yeah.
that you've gone all in on travel. And then I'm so thankful that you have somebody too, like Peter, who supports you in this. And I think just hearing you talk about like your relationship and the way he's excited for you and seeing it grow, I think is so beautiful. So you're going to have the best honeymoon. And I just want to thank you again for coming on today. If people want to connect with you, follow all of your amazing content, learn more about travel, where can they find you?
Yes, I am Little Miss Awkward, Lilms. I may need to change it to Mrs. I have
Wondering if it was
for
ever
almost
going to change.
never. No, but maybe eventually. But Lilms Awkward on pretty much all social media platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And I also have a website, but I don't use it, so don't go there. But it's littlemissawkward.com.
And you can go see, I'm sure, the old blog post about the monkeys.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I deleted those. But there's some blog posts I'm sure from 2020 on there that you can probably read that are interesting.
So funny. Well, thank you so much. This was so much fun. And I
You.
hope everybody takes something away from this, whether it's solo travel, traveling solo while married, whatever it might be. And if you want to connect with Alexa, please do. She is so fabulous and a great wealth of knowledge when it comes to travel and so much more actually beyond that. So I won't even limit you to that. So have a great day, everyone, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.